We're now joined by Yannick Wood, Director of Criminal Justice Reform at New Jersey Institute for Social Justice. Their website will be up. Yannick, great to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Steve.
Let's jump right into this. So racial disparities on our roads. The Attorney General, Matt Platkin, announced a new pilot program that has to do with New Jersey State Police under his purview and the stops going on our roads. A couple numbers, if I can put them out there, and you can respond. People can decide whether this is, quote, racial profiling or not. Black motorists are 89.8%, and Hispanic motorists are 46.4% more likely to be searched once stopped than white motorists. Black motorists are 88%, Hispanic motorists 57% more likely to be arrested once stopped by New Jersey State Police than white motorists. Finally, black motorists are 130%, Hispanic motorists 28% more likely to experience force once stopped by the state police. Yannick, please talk about where we are and how bad this is.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to give the Attorney General Platkin credit for acknowledging something that motorists of color have known to be true for a long time, and that there's racial bias in traffic stops. But I think the most important thing is, what is the Attorney General going to do about it? And we'll see what happens at the end of this pilot program.
What's the pilot program supposed to do?
Well, I'm still learning what's going to actually happen in the pilot program along with the public. But it seems like they're going to be try to come up with a system where state troopers could advance traffic safety without perpetuating racial bias.
Okay, so let's talk about this. And you have the New Yorker cover over your left shoulder with George Floyd. Let's talk about this. Let's not talk about the particulars of policy. Let's just talk about real life experiences. To what degree have you experienced, quote unquote, driving while black?
Well, I actually have a very interesting background, because I used to be a part of law enforcement. I used to be a prosecutor in Queens, in New York City. So I have that perspective. I'm also a black man, the most targeted group, as it were, with respect to these traffic stops. And I personally have not been pulled over as a result of racial bias. But as a prosecutor, I could just think back to, a particular case of mine where, I had an officer make a comment saying that, oh, this person didn't look like they belonged in this neighborhood. So those are the types of things that I observed. Aside from the motor context, I've been racially profiled in convenience stores, and just walking down the street, I've been racially profiled. And that's the reason why I began the segment by talking about that this is something that people of color, people in New Jersey, know to be true. And so this report is just confirming something. It's not new. This type of profiling has existed for a long time. What I thought was very interesting in some of the statistics that the Attorney General put out there is that even though they're more likely to search black motorists and Hispanic motorists, black and Hispanic motorists are less likely to have evidence of whatever they're trying to find through these searches. So it shows you that the racial bias is not even furthering public safety. It's not even furthering traffic safety. So I think that there needs to be a hard look at the reason for why we do these traffic stops, and to come up with recommendations for how we could further traffic safety and not just be reduced to these racial biases that we've seen for generations.
By the way, in the 1990s, the racial profiling issue exploded in the state of New Jersey under the Christie Whitman administration, Governor Whitman. You can go back and read about how bad things were. And to be so far along, 30 years after that time when things were pretty bad, we're still talking about this. Let me stay on this, if I could, Yannick. George Floyd, I mentioned the New Yorker cover behind you. From your perspective, what does the George Floyd case represent to you, not just professionally, but personally?
Well, I think George Floyd's murder was a disruption of the status quo of of how law enforcement uh, unnecessarily just preys upon people of color, particularly Black men. It was a disruption of that status quo, and it was a a racial reckoning where we could see all sorts of systems of racial oppression in all these other types of government institutions, in industry, and it was a moment where we're all jolted to action to see how we could disrupt these things. I think when it comes to traffic stops, there needs to be a new philosophical approach to how officers do these traffic stops.
What do
So,
you mean?
and what I mean by that is, when I went to law school and when I was, in the prosecutor's school, when we were doing the initial training, they spoke about pretextual stops. That was a legal term that they used, where it was allowed for an officer to pull somebody over for, a code violation or something like that, some moving violation, and then to use that as the opportunity to launch an ad hoc investigation to escalate the case into
So it's
something
a
else
pretext.
as a pretext, exactly, right? And that's
What's wrong with that
fleeting.
approach? What's wrong with that approach?
Well, that unnecessarily escalates, but benign traffic stops into something that shouldn't have to be escalated. The statistic I mentioned before is that that Black and Hispanic motorists in New Jersey who are stopped by state police more likely to be stopped than white motorists are less likely to have evidence of crime. So it seems like this escalation of trying to search vehicles, trying to ask people, hey, you don't have anything that you're supposed to have, or that you're not supposed to have, or you don't mind if I search your vehicle? It seems like that type of conduct is leading to not to public safety, but leading to harassment of people of color in New Jersey. I think the new philosophical approach needs to be that officers should issue more warnings. If it's truly about traffic safety, then they should use this as a teachable moment to say, oh, you know what, your taillight is out, and I'll do you one better, right? Other states, I know in Long Island, they've been doing this. In California and other states around the country, they've been allowing officers to hand out vouchers so that way people can get their taillights fixed, their brake light fixed, or their headlights fixed, because nobody wants to be driving with a broken taillight.
We don't do that in New Jersey. We don't do that in New Jersey.
As far as I know, we're not doing
We're
that,
not.
but I think that could be part of this pilot program. I mean, we're coming up with ideas right now for how we could solve the issue. That's one way of solving the issue.
Complex stuff. To simply call it racial profiling, saying we have to fix the problem of racial profiling, we have to understand it, we have to acknowledge it, we have to break it down and be committed to dealing with it. And those of us who say, hey, it's not a big deal, it's usually because it's not happening to us. That being said, Yannick Wood, Director of Criminal Justice Reform at New Jersey Institute of Social Justice, I want to thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I'm Steve Adubato. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by Rowan University, the Northward Center, Prudential Financial, the Turrell Fund, supporting Reimagine Childcare, New Jersey Sharing Network, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, PSEG Foundation, Community Food Bank of New Jersey, Newark Board of Education, and by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State, and by Employers Association of New Jersey. Promotional support provided by New Jersey Monthly and by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association.
How do you create change? By cultivating hope. And we see that every day. In the eyes of our preschoolers, in the souls of the seniors in our Adult Day program, in the minds of the students at Robert Treat Academy, a national Blue Ribbon School of Excellence, in the passion of children in our Youth Leadership Development Program, in our commitment to connections at the Center for Autism, and in the heart of our community, the Northward Center, creating opportunities for equity, education, and growth.